you could get done if you had an infinite amount of time. An infinite number of possibilities. That's the quantum. Now, in the quantum, there's nothing structural, there's nothing material, there's nothing physical, there's no form, right? So what is it made of? It's made of energy, frequency, vibration, thought, consciousness, information, and every thought in that realm has a frequency. So all possibilities already exist. You don't have to create the possibility. In fact, all you have to do is become aware that it exists. The moment you do that, you're changing the thought and you're producing a different frequency. Now, if the person is astute enough to feel the frequency of the thought in the quantum and not wait for the experience to happen, but the thought of abundance would produce the feeling of abundance. For most people in three-dimensional reality, the thought of abundance produces the lack of not having it. That's why they're trying to create it, right? But in the quantum, you got to feel it in order to experience it, okay? So as you get closer and closer to that point, that source, that singularity, pure love, the zero-point field, whatever you want to call it, universal mind, that the creator, pure consciousness, as you get closer and closer to it, the closer you get to it, the more bliss, the more love, the more ecstasy you feel, then you're no longer creating from lack or separation. The closer you get to it in the process of creation, the shorter the distance between the thought of what you want and the experience of having it, between the cause and the effect, from one point of consciousness and the other point of consciousness. So then people can create from the field instead of from matter if they have a coherent brain and a coherent heart, and they actually can send a coherent signal out and feel the emotion ahead of the experience. Then those synchronicities and opportunities that they're creating from fifth dimensional reality requires doing less. Let's just say that lack is ingrained in there. You got the story, you lived on the streets, you lost everything, you got betrayed, your business partner took everything, took your wife, you got the story in the half, okay? Okay, you gotta start telling a new story of the future, right? You gotta believe in that future more than you have to believe in the past. So how do you do that? You only believe in the past when you feel the emotions of the past. The only time you're gonna believe in the future is when you feel the emotions of the future, right? Okay, so in order for us to change a belief or perception about ourselves and our lives, we have to make a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carries a level of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional conditioning in your body. And your body literally has to respond to your mind. That the choice that you're making to change in that moment becomes a moment in time that you never forget. And here's the key. Physically, the stronger the emotion you feel when you make that choice, the more you'll remember the decision. Okay, so then how do we down-regulate that old belief? If the trauma created an emotional quotient of 6 or 7, then your decision to change your beliefs got to be a 9.
Right.
And you got to come out of your resting state, and that moment has to define you. You could say, I know exactly where I was, the time and day it was, who I was with, when I made my mind up to change, right? Because you created a long-term memory. Long-term memories are created from strong emotion, right? But if the amplitude of that emotion is greater than the betrayal, boom, the body starts responding to the mind, and you're actually giving your body a taste of the future emotionally. So you brand your...
What's possible.
No, your body's actually getting a taste of that future event.
It's experiencing the future now.
Exactly. Big explosion in the quantum field. Big explosion. So the side effect of that is if you combine that clear intention with that elevated emotion, you're basically remembering your future, and it looks no different than remembering your past. Think neurologically within the circuits of that memory and feel within the emotions of that new belief, and watch your life begin to change, because nothing changes in our life that we change. And when we change our energy, we change our life. So now the experiment all of a sudden is no longer based on it being hard or trying or wishing or wanting or hoping. That's what we do when we're in lack or separation. It's about change. So then when we finally realize, in order for us to become abundant, we have to overcome the old personality. And that's 95% of who we are, right?
Yes.
So then the side effect of the beginning of this process is a lot of discomfort. It is a lot of discomfort because you're stepping outside the known into the unknown, and now you can't predict.
It's scary.
No,
It's
you'd
fearful.
rather hold on to your lack.
The pain, the suffering.
Rather tell the story of that. At least it makes you feel something that's familiar. When you step outside and you're saying, I'm not going to complain about money any longer. I'm not going to complain about I don't have any. I'm not going to judge other people who do. I'm not going to say I can. I'm not worthy. It's never going to work. All those things got to go. I'm not going to feel lack. I'm not going to feel unworthy. I'm not going to feel separation. I'm not going to feel resentment. These are the things that are keeping my reality the same. Now it's no longer about abundance, about who you become. So the overcoming process becomes the becoming process. And so many people come to this work, they want abundance, they want healing, they want a new relationship, they want a new career, they want the mystical, but really they want wholeness. And
They want healing, they want peace.
they want wholeness.
Because they feel unwhole.
Well, when you're in lack or you're in separation, you're not whole. Imagine feeling so much wholeness that's impossible to want. That's what we're working on with people. Then you can really enjoy a sunset. Then you can really enjoy a meal. Then you can really enjoy your friends. Then you can. I talk to people that are very abundant. I mean, in the billions abundant. And you know, so many of them say, we are in misery.
They're not whole.
We're in agony because they can't enjoy life anymore. That's what they want. I mean, people want abundance to be able to enjoy life. They want to be able to do whatever they want with whoever they want as many times as they want, wherever they want. That's freedom, right? Or people want abundance. The sponsoring thought is really they want freedom, right? Or whatever their sponsoring thought would be.
Because no new information can enter their nervous system that isn't equal to the emotion they're experiencing. Do you want to be reasoned with when you're emotional? Do you want to be left alone? You want a few minutes, yes? Now, if there's an injury, if there's danger, of course you have to step in. If there's chemical needs, of course you have to, take care of that. But for the most part, with my children, I allowed them to have their moment. But whenever they had their moment, I would stop whatever I was doing and I would turn and look at them. And I would watch them. I wanted them to know that I was observing them. Never said anything to them unless they asked. And when the emotions wore off, I would say to them, at the end of the day, I'd get in bed with them and I'd say, tough day for me today. And I would share with them what I was working on as if they were my best friend or an adult. I didn't hold back at all with them. And I would do that to create the space of safety where they could start expressing what they knew that I observed about them in the most objective way, self-reflective way. And then they would say, oh yeah, I lost my temper with Paris, her friend. And I said, I know, I saw you. This is right before they go to bed. What's their brain waves at this point? Very suggestible. They're already dipping into theta, they're in alpha. They're in the love stories because it helps them to imagine.